Now, beyond marketing, Susan is known for one powerful idea. Risk can be engineered. Whether in life or business, she builds systems that replace fear with clarity, confidence, and measurable growth. Today, we are unpacking how professionals can make smarter career moves using data, structure, and courage. And with that, I'll bring in our guest. Hello, Susan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's awesome. Thank you for coming. So you talk about risk. You said we can engineer risk. I'm an engineer myself. So I want to hear from you. How can working professionals engineer risk rather than avoid it? What does that look like?
Risk is a muscle, and muscles have to be nourished, grown, and strengthened. And so, if you think about risk, if you change risk from being some scary thing or some undefined thing, and you simply say risk is a muscle, and my goal is to make that muscle as strong as possible, which effectively then makes it less risky, right?
Yeah.
Then you can think about, well, how can I grow that muscle? And I think we, as children, we try to teach our children risk in ways that are very safe, where the consequences are not catastrophic. We'll put them in team sports, or we'll have them be in a musical group where they have to get in front of people. And as adults, we sort of forget all of those paths towards training. And so if you think about the profile of risk, you want to start by saying, how big is my muscle? How risk adverse am I, or how comfortable with risk am I? And from that starting point, you can start to think about, okay, I'm really risk averse. I'm really afraid that I'm going to mess it all up, or I'm going to make the wrong move, or I'm afraid to speak up because of that. And you can start to say, how can I practice? How can I start to build that muscle so that I can become more comfortable? And you start with the smallest slices that you can possibly think of. It could be in a meeting, instead of raising your hand and saying something, you just write it down on the paper in front of you. Because what you're doing is you're effectively getting it out of your brain and you're getting it into some place in front of you. And then maybe your next step is that you write it down in front of you, you review it after the meeting, and you go and talk to your boss after the meeting and say, hey, during the meeting I had this idea. I was a little bit nervous about speaking up, but here's my idea. And your boss will say, wow, that's a great idea. Why didn't you raise your hand during the meeting? And so
Right.
then the next meeting, what do? You raise your hand during the meeting. And
Yeah.
suddenly you're leading meetings. And so one way to think about risk is break it down into the smallest slice that you're comfortable with and practice that slice. And then make it a little bit bigger slice, and then a little bit bigger slice. I'm an extreme athlete. I play a lot of sports where you could die. Kite surfing, I'm a big mountain skier, a mountain biker. And a lot of people look at these sports and they're like, you're crazy, like you're gonna die. But for me, I look at it in terms of risk that has been broken down into pieces. I know my equipment is safe. I'm very comfortable with my equipment and I know how it works. I look at the conditions before I go out and make sure that I'm comfortable with the conditions. And little by little, that risk that from the outside looks so gigantic, to me doesn't look like a risk at all. It looks like a controlled scenario that I understand what's going on and I can safely go out and have a really, really good time. And I think you can translate that into any part of your life. If you can become comfortable with each slice, suddenly the whole pie isn't so risky anymore.
Okay, that's good, Susan. And I appreciate what you are telling us. You are not telling people to be careless. You are telling them to take measurable and calculated risk. Now, how do we know what risk is worth taking versus maybe some occasion, just to back out and not go in at all? How do you evaluate that?
So risk and how sort of risk adverse is what you need to look at is what the outcome could be. So when you think about the risk you're going to take, I always say, well, what's the worst thing that could happen if I were to do this thing? So if you're in that meeting and your boss has some grand vision and your idea is I want to raise my hand and tell my boss that he's batshit crazy and that that's not what we should do, what's the
Right.
risk? The risk is that your boss might fire you and be like,
Right.
we are not aligned, we are not on the same page, like this is not going to work. And so if you think about what could happen if I do this, then the answer is like, I could lose my job. If I go out and I go skiing and the conditions don't look good, the avalanche danger is high, it's snowing, the risk is that I could lose my life or I could get seriously injured. I probably won't go out in those conditions. Some people will. Some people have that confidence that, no, I feel safe, or I don't care if my boss fires me. But for me, like, that's how I draw my lines. And so it really comes down to, like, is sharing my idea or going to my boss with my idea, is he gonna, what's the worst case scenario? And if the worst case scenario is he's gonna tell me to go back and do some more research or maybe take a course and learn a little bit more, that's not really that bad of a scenario. And so therefore, I might say that risk is worth it. So I always say, in my mind, what's the worst thing that could happen? Am I comfortable with that? And if I'm comfortable with that, then it's pretty easy to walk up to that edge.
Okay.
And again, risk is a muscle. So your comfort is going to come at different stages depending on how big your muscle is and how much you've trained that muscle. So practice taking little micro risks, and eventually you'll feel more comfortable telling your boss that he's batshit crazy. But he knows he can't fire you because you are too invaluable to the team and that your perspective might actually matter.
Okay.
Right? So don't and I have team members that tell me I'm batshit crazy all the time, and they don't get fired because they have that confidence, and we now have the relationship where they feel comfortable doing that.
Okay. No, I like the way you put it. You are asking people to do scenario testing, and you also say we should take micro risk. So little by little, baby steps. You are not telling people to go climb the mountain without having any sort of practice. Now, how do we apply this risk taking to business and endeavor? For example, you have helped companies to scale. How do you know when it's time to acquire another business or partner with another business? Or maybe it is the idea is to even go ahead and start a new business. How do you use risk to measure these business growth opportunities?
So I think it comes down to the same principles that we've just discussed. What's the worst case scenario? If I acquire this company, at Trigget, my last business, we had an opportunity to acquire another business that actually had significantly more revenue than we did. They also had significantly more costs than we did. And they were not cash flow positive. And so for us, we looked at this opportunity. It was like, whoa, look at this book of business that we can acquire. Like, these are some really incredible relationships. And we know that we can go in and transform those businesses using the methodology and the mechanisms that we use. But on the flip side, we also have to absorb all of these costs.
Mm-hmm.
And the costs were significant enough that when we stopped and we said, what's the worst thing that happens? And we mapped that scenario out. We realized that if things did not go the way that we were hoping they could go, they could essentially destroy both businesses within 6 months. And we decided that risk was too risky and was not worth taking. So even though we could have acquired this company for a bargain basement price, even though we knew we could have transformed the revenue of the companies they were serving and likely unlocked significantly more revenue, the risk of going out of business that quickly, considering the cost structure that we didn't think we could reduce, was too high for us. And so we decided to say no. So I think in other instances, it's like, oh, should we hire this small team of engineers? What's the risk here? This is like, we're adding, we have I think at the time we were probably about 70 people. We're hiring 3 people. We're going to give them this bonus. What's the risk? The risk was literally the cash compensation they got on the acquisition. And maybe it didn't work and we fired them. That was a much lower risk. It wasn't going to put the whole company out of business.
Yeah.
And so we moved forward with that deal. So again, I always like to think, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I do this thing?
Yeah.
And am I comfortable with that? And if the answer is yes, then take the risk.
Okay. No, I like that. What's the worst thing that could happen? And am I comfortable with the outcome? And if you are comfortable, take the risk. Now, you are the CEO of Force of Nature. So what does your day-to-day activity look like today? What do you do?
So I'm extraordinarily blessed with an incredible team and a bunch of accidental things that have happened. that have let me trust them and really create the systems and intentionally design the systems to trust them so that I don't have to be involved in their day-to-day. I don't have to micromanage them. They don't have to come with me and check in or ask permission. And we really operate on a quantitative nature, where as long as the performance is there, both on what we're doing from a revenue perspective for ourselves and for our clients, and the client happiness is there, then I stay out of it. I let them manage the clients, and I let them do whatever they need to do their jobs. My job is to look forward and constantly be thinking about where are we going to find new business, where are we going to find new opportunities, what products or services do we need to build on the outside. And that's an incredibly lucky place that I've been able to get to. We've been going for about 5 years now, and now I can really sit in that seat. And I think I'm thankful, and I wish maybe we would have even invested sooner, faster, harder in the systems that let me do that and be that person, be the founder versus being an operator. And so I think I would encourage any leader to say, what do I need to do? What systems do I need to do so that my team can operate independently and confidently, so then I can look forwards. I'm not constantly looking backwards. How do I build systems so that we can be proactive, not reactive? Okay. And what's really incredible is that although AI might eat the world and take us all with it, it's super easy to learn how to build systems, and it's super easy to have AI. AI is really good at systems. It's really good at recognizing patterns. It's really good at saying, here's how you could structure things to reduce that. And so you can very, very quickly say, okay, I need to build a better system to get me out of this role where I'm doing this work that I don't want to be doing. And choose your favorite LLM, and it will help you build that system. Your job is to deploy the system, believe in the system, invest in the system.
Okay. And that was going to be my question to you, actually, Susan, on how to build systems. And I know it can vary from business to business, and the complexity will also varies depending on how the nature of the business. But can you give us a breakdown of how to build system? I know you mentioned AI, but maybe prior to AI, how did you scale your own business, and what sort of system are you talking about when you say, oh, people need to build system around their business?
So, I think this has been for me the big unlock, which is to stay. How do you become a systems thinker? And how do you constantly think in systems? So I think the first step in understanding how to think in systems is to think about what is a system. So a system is something that you can repeat and that the outcome is repeatable. So to me, as I think about systems, and I do my darndest to systematize as much in my life as I possibly can, it's if I'm going to do it twice, is there a way I could do it better? Is there a way we can make it so that it's repeatable? And then can I delegate it? Can someone else do it, right? And so I'm constantly looking for those moments. And I give myself, I'm pretty good at it, but I have plenty of opportunity for improvement. But I'm always looking for, is it repeatable? Is this something that's exactly the same every single time you do it? And therefore, you should have a system for it. So an example of this is laundry. So you do your laundry, someone does your laundry. So the question is, how do you do your laundry? If you do your laundry in your home and you have a family, you might have a lot of laundry. Mm-hmm. But you can systematize that by saying, who's responsible for it? What's the cadence in which it needs to get done? Right. And what's sort of the minimal state that it must exist in? Okay. And by saying, okay, someone's responsible for it, here's how frequently it needs to get done, and here's sort of the minimally viable state, then you remove the stress. So our laundry, for example, we know we have enough clothing that we should probably wash our laundry at least about once a week. Yeah. Right? If we do it once a week, it tends to be good enough. That does mean that my daughter's unicorn dress may not be clean one day. Mm-hmm. And that has to be okay. Because our system is that we have someone who owns that role in our family, mm-hmm. and they get to do it on the frequency that they do it, and we all expect, hey, there's going to be clean laundry once a week. We all put away our own clothes, so the kids have to put away their own clothes once a week. And I don't have to harp on them every single day, hey, why aren't your clothes put away? because it's a task they do once a week. So now you translate that into your business, and it's the same thing. We need to make sure that invoices go out once a month. Okay, great. Invoices need to go out once a month. Who's responsible for that? What is the task or the role? What's the minimal thing that they need to do? And then the expectation is, okay, the invoices will be out by the 5th of each month. People need to submit their numbers by the 2nd. For that to happen, people need to submit their numbers by the 2nd of each month. And then I don't need to get involved or stress about it and constantly be thinking about when is the invoice going to go out, because I know the team will submit their numbers by the 2nd, and that will give my controller 3 days to generate the invoices, and they're sent on the 5th. If the invoices are not sent on the 5th, then I can be like, where's the invoices? What's going on? Get involved. But I don't even think about it, because guess what? The system works. People submit their numbers. The invoices are generated. They're sent out by the 5th every month. And then that makes sure that our cash flow stays on point and that there's no issues, right? So it's, again, identify the problem. Super simple. This is the big unlock. Identify the problem. Someone's in charge of the problem. It might be you, right? You might be a system of one. That's okay. And then what's the minimally viable state that you need to have a solution for that problem? And then don't think about it anymore.
Wow.
Execute on the system.
That's so good. And that's fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Now you've helped to scale businesses like Ring, like Halo. I want to hear from you how that experience helped shape your leadership journey.
Oh man, so this is everything. It turns out rocket ships are real, and that when you're on a rocket ship, everything is chaotic, and it's going to the moon, and it's going really fast. That is an incredible and a truly wonderful experience. The biggest thing that I've learned in seeing and being a part of multiple rocket ships is that product market fit is real. And we can't pretend that it's not. You know it when you got it. And if you're constantly fighting a battle where the market is telling you that you're not on a rocket ship of whatever size rocket ship you want to be on. Not all rocket ships that are going to Mars are a lot of fun. You might not come back, right? Like you may just be like, I'm just going to go to the moon. That's going to be far enough for me, right? So, but you'll know it when you got it. And if you can't get liftoff, and it's taking you a long time, then my biggest recommendation is go and either join another rocket ship or start building another rocket ship, right? Because the number of at-bats, the number of tries that you have matters a lot. And so if you are constantly battling this uphill battle and it all just keeps falling apart, my recommendation is to acknowledge that truth and go find someone who's built a rocket ship that's flying, that's really a lot of fun. And it's the same thing if you're in a business. If you're in a business, especially if you're in a startup, and it just feels like it's hard and it's not taking off and you can't figure out how it's going to take off, it might not. So just acknowledge that as either a founder or as someone that's inside of a business. Acknowledge that truth and go find one that is, or go build one that is. Because once you have that product market fit, it's just like you're just trying to keep up, right? And it's a very real thing and it's a very real feeling. And so I think the thing I've learned in my career in working with so many incredible companies is that when it's easy, and when it's hard, and sometimes when it's hard, it's not fixable.
So product market fix. Thank you. Now let's take a step back and look into your early career. I want to hear maybe what skill or decision that you can share with us that helped to accelerate your growth.
Gosh, I was just having a conversation with a gal on my team who's extraordinary, and we found her when she was young and inexperienced, and she's leaving us. We're so excited for her and sad for us because she got such an incredible opportunity that she can't say no to, and we don't think she should say no to. And the thing that she said was, she's like, the thing I really love about what we do here at Force of Nature is we fake it till we make it. It's so true. We all have imposter syndrome. Everyone in the world has imposter. And I think the people that really, really, really succeed are really good at faking it until they make it, right? Until saying, yeah, I can do that, until you can't. Particularly early in your career, I think it's okay to have the confidence to take those risks, because the downside isn't going to be devastating. You don't have kids, you don't have a big responsibility, you don't have really any obligation besides like maybe making sure you can, pay for the bunk in the shared house that you're living in. And so try to do bigger things than you think that you can do, because you'd be stunned at how quickly you can learn, how quickly you can adapt, and how quickly you'll be able to fill that role. And so especially with the tools that exist today, I mean, this is an incredible use of AI is education and the ability to learn how to do something fast. Take on that risk. Say, I'll go figure that out, right? Instead of saying, no, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. I'm that. So if you have an opportunity, say yes, and then figure it out and sprint like heck until you do it. We at Trigit at my last company had this crazy opportunity where we were getting all of this business from Brazil, and all of our competitors were saying no. And we were like, yeah, we can do business in Brazil. Facebook called us and they're like, you can do business in Brazil? And I was like, totally, we could totally do business in Brazil. And they were like, okay. Yeah. And then we started to figure out what it meant to do business in Brazil. And it was really complicated. We had to start an entity in Brazil. We had to figure out how to do FX and foreign exchange and figure out how to move money. We had to deal with taxation policy in Brazil. And this was before AI just told us how to do it all. But we did it, and it ended up being a huge part of our business. We ended up having an office and a great team down there. And it's just such a good example of just say yes, fake it till you make it. And what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario was like we couldn't figure it out and we didn't get a bunch of clients in Brazil and that we wasted some time. And instead, about 30% of our business ended up coming from Brazil, and it was, an extraordinary experience. So I can't say enough, like, don't be timid, don't be shy. Again, think about what's the worst case scenario if I said yes to this and it falls apart, and then fake it till you make it.
That's a good. Now, you've mentioned AI a couple of times. How should working professionals, how should they adopt and use AI in terms of how to grow their career today?
So I think it's staggering to consider what's the wave that's coming at us all.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why it's so staggering is because unlike the internet and really what we consider tech and software, AI is hitting everything all at once, right? And if you think about what AI is right now, not necessarily what it can or could be in the future, but if we think about what it is right now, it is absolutely the smartest person in any industry, in any position, in your pocket at all times.
Right.
That's extraordinary. Every person in the world now has access to the smartest expert in every single field in the entire world in their pocket. And the implications of that are just staggering and wonderful. I mean, I now have access to like the best dermatologist to help me figure out what to do with my skin. I have access to the best educators to think about how to educate my children. The key is you have to use that access. It's better than a library because you can target it and point it for what you want. And so if you think about where and how to use AI today, you should stop and say, if I had the world's foremost expert in my pocket on this thing that I'm doing or this thing that I'm studying or this career that I'm doing, who's that person? And what questions would I want to ask that person to really accelerate my growth and accelerate my ability to do something? And then structure your conversations so that you're just constantly just ingesting information. So then when you're in your role in real time, you are able to have some of the pattern recognition and some of the noticing things that AI does so well. I also, I think the other really important tidbit to think about is AI is an expert and it's really good at pattern recognition. So feed it the information that it can help you identify the patterns in your career, in your life, in what you need to learn, so that then you can start to get better at pattern recognition yourself, and you can also see those patterns and act on those patterns. And I think that's everyone's so scared of it, but I really, really love the way Eric Schmidt talks about AI and saying, but what if we just think about this as being the smartest people in the world, accessible to everyone all the time? What does that mean? What does that do for our ability as humanity to solve hard problems and to grow. And I am a eternal optimist, and so I have to believe we're going to solve the hard problems, and there will be a plethora of hard problems, but humans have historically been pretty good at solving hard problems, and maybe we'll unlock some truly miraculous things.
That's a good. We will solve hard problem. Now, finally, Susan, what career advice would you give someone, people in their maybe mid-career level, and about how to grow and step into those leadership roles?
So I think, I've been kind of saying this the whole conversation, but it's so deceptively simple that once you see it, you can't unsee it, which is that life is about taking risks. Risks on how you put yourself out into the world and who you communicate with. And the more you can practice that skill, the easier it becomes. And one of my core mental models that I really think about, this, the deceptively simple mental model is that if risk is a muscle and I can build that muscle, then this thing will get simpler. And so if you start at the beginning, you say, okay, this thing looks really intimidating. This thing looks really hard. I think I know where I want to go, but how in the world am I going to get there? If you just say, I'm going to start with one little slice and I'm going to try to climb the mountain one step at a time, no matter how comfortable you get, you will become more comfortable and it will become easier. Over the course of the last year in particular, I've had to do some really hard things that I knew nothing about and have hard conversations with people in fields that I knew nothing about. And it's crazy to look back from where I started to where I am today, because today I feel like I'm now an expert in many of those domains because I took one step at a time and I took one risk at a time. And now a year later, that risk is embodied in what is, I consider, expertise. And so just take the step, believe that each step will get bigger, more incremental, and that you'll become more comfortable taking bigger steps as you grow.
And there you have it. Suzanne is encouraging us, motivating us to take risk, because a life without risk, I would say, is not worth living. Thank you for sharing your wealth of wisdom with us on this show today. Suzanne, where can my audience find you so that they can continue to learn from you and participate in your journey?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So you can look at LinkedIn/whatever, Susan CK.
Suzanne.
So find me there. I post a lot of content. I'm going to be accelerating how much I post in the coming weeks and months. And I really hope and wish everyone the best in taking a risk today, as big as you can.
All right, let's take those risks. Thank you very much, Susan.
Have a good one.
Bye.